is Triple Threat Entertainment's podcast, and I am your host, Stacey Yvonne, and I'm on Accused Health and Wellness. And I have here with me Miss Jaketta Harris, owner of Aesthetic Elements. And we're going to be talking a lot today about a lot of different things. So, hello, Miss Jaketta. How are you?
I'm good, Miss Stacey Yvonne. How are you? Bayham Detox Queen.
Period. Long as you know what it is. Long as you. What is your hashtag?
My hashtag is aesthetic elements
Aesthetic.
or aesthetic elements or hashtag the skin goddess.
The skin goddess. So I was just about to say. So, what do you feel like you're known as in your industry?
Oh, the goddess. That's where we
Goddess.
started. Elemental goddess. That's where we started at.
And what does that mean to you?
Elemental goddess was the earth, air, fire, water, the basic elements of life. You have to have those things to function in this world. So when I started my business, it was a holistic business. You have to be whole, inner and outer have to come together for you to be well. Okay. So that's where elemental goddess came. And then when I became an esthetician, it was only right to add the element of aesthetics, not take away. Right. So that's where we got aesthetic elements. All of the elements together aesthetically make you beautiful inside and out.
And this has nothing to do with the topic, but I'd like to ask you, how did you get into your business? Like, what made you start doing aesthetic elements?
What made me start...
not just aesthetic elements, what made you get into being an entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur. Well, the entrepreneur part came from, I ain't like people telling me what to do. In the aspect of going to work, you have control of my time, my money. I didn't want any parts of any of that. Mm-hmm. So on the back end, a hobby or something that I liked was crafting. So how do we put those together? Well, I was going to school to be a nurse, a OBG, NICU nurse, so delivering babies. And then I came across Miss Stacey Yvonne on Facebook, who was doing yoni wellness. And it was the first time that I had heard about that aspect of holistic healthcare. So we researched that and go into that, and that led me to becoming a yoni practitioner, which then led to making soap.
Do you know, I had no idea that that's how you got into business. So when I met you, you were not already an entrepreneur?
No, ma'am. My yoni certification was my first business.
So tell me a little bit about you. Are you married? Do you have children, siblings?
I'm not married. I am a divorced. I've been divorced for about 4 or 5 years. I do have a son. My son's name is Dakota. He's 23. I also had another son, Elijah Durante. He passed in 2005 in a car accident. So we'll get to that. I have 4 sisters. My mom and dad split when I was really young. And I am just a free spirit.
So let's talk about your upbringing. Did you have a quote unquote happy childhood, you would say?
We had happy moments, yes. But as far as my upbringing, it was a very toxic household. And I'm just getting to a place where I can start speaking freely about some of those things. But it wasn't always happy. My dad wasn't the best all the time. So him and my mom fought a lot, and it was domestically violent. There was times when we left and we would go back, and it was good for months. And then there would be an episode of it's not good. So it wasn't a happy childhood. Then we get to about 11. My mom and dad had split at that point, but they had a stint where they got back together, and I ended up being molested by my father. Or there's a difference in wording. Some people don't think of it as molesting. I was raped. So that was at 11, and that started a tumultuous journey of my teenage years. So I can't say that childhood was amazing. but there are some very good moments, and there are some very strong women in my family that made it. I was able to cope. I was able to cope to a
And
certain extent.
so let's go back just a little bit. You said that there was domestic violence in the home. Were you physically abused, or it was just violence between the adults?
There was violence between the adults. I have one instance that I remember. Now, my dad was the disciplinarian. So when you get to in a black household, a whooping. Okay, you get a whooping for you doing something. I can remember one very significant instance where it was summertime, and I don't even remember what happened, but I was disciplined and I was bruised so bad I had to wear a sweater and jeans to school the next day. And I've been over at the water fountain, and one of my classmates saw all of the bruises and ran and told the teacher something happened to her. She's got stuff all over her body. So they made me go into the office, and I'm just like, no, I just got in trouble. By the time I got home from school, DHR was there.
Mm.
So they told DHR, their kids, they got in trouble. She got a whooping. I don't, as being young, I don't actually know what happened with the DHR situation. Um, but when DHR left, he whooped me again in those same areas because you don't go to school and say nothing.
But did he not know that you didn't say anything, that your clothes
It
came off?
wasn't. I don't even think that mattered at that point.
Okay.
I don't think that mattered at that point. Um, he was very inconsistent. So, sometimes you had the playful daddy that was great and loving, and sometimes it was just violent.
And so when you say up until the age of 11, had he ever like demonstrated any of that type of behavior towards you?
Not that I can remember. Not that I can remember. Like it was just the disciplinary that you thinking it is disciplinary at that time. But as far as the sexual abuse, not that I can remember, because this is a child with her father. So kissing your dad is normal at that age. Your dad giving you a bath is normal at that because that's your father. So I don't remember there being sexual innuendo as an adult looking back up until we got around to that time. And I can remember him showing me like how to clean myself. And he was like, you have to stick your finger in here to do this. And that was the one instance before the actual act happened that I can think now that wasn't normal.
Mm-hmm. And after the actual incident happened, how did your family handle that? Or did you tell anyone, or did you suffer in silence? Like, how did that go about?
I didn't tell anyone for a few weeks because of course the you can't tell. I'm gonna get in trouble
Did he
and you're
tell
gonna
you
get in
not to
trouble.
tell someone?
Absolutely, at immediately after. He cleaned up, had me put my clothes back on, and you can't tell your mom because you're gonna get in trouble, and then they're gonna send me away. So 11-year-old child that you're telling, and this is my dad telling me, don't tell anybody this because this was what's gonna happen. So I got up the next morning to get ready for school. There was blood everywhere, of course. So I actually bathed and hid those clothes. I think a week or so went by. Something had happened, and he left again. Something happened. I wanted to do something, and my mother said no, and it pissed me off. And I can remember it made me so mad because why? That was my outlet. I think I wanted to go to my cousin's house, who lived right behind us. She was my outlet. She had become the person that I was able to go to and act out with because I had this secret.
You had
Well,
already
my mom
told
said
your
no, that
cousin?
I
Or you
hadn't told her.
okay.
But I hadn't told her, but I was going over to her house more frequently. My mom said no this day, and it pissed me off. So I said, well, I'm going to just tell her this so that she'll let me go. So I went in the room and wrote her a letter and wrote everything that happened in like a red crayon and gave it to her. So about 10 minutes later, she comes in my room and she says, Jaketta, this is really serious and you can't play about this. If this really happened, I need you to tell me right now that it really happened. And I said, yeah, that really happened. She called the police immediately. They came. I had to go to the doctor and they done a exam and told her that there had been sexual activity.
And so was there
So
any type of action against your father?
Yep. He immediately was picked up. He went to jail and we had to go to court. I had to sit in a court and look at him and tell the court what he did. He went to prison for 11 or 12 years.
Really?
He got out of prison when I was in my 20s, 20, 21. He got out of prison after the passing of, well, yeah, a little bit after the passing of Elijah. So he went to prison from I was 11 to 21. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so once he goes to prison, what is your family dynamic? How are things at home for you?
The family dynamic changes in the aspect of now you have a single mother home with 3 kids. My other sister, of course, was another mother, so she was off. So now we have a single mother who now has to work all the time because I have 3 kids to take care of, and then she adopted her niece. So it became, as while we were young, it was cool because we were kids. But then when my dad went to prison, it changed drastically because now I'm the person, I'm the reason that my sisters don't have a dad. And they're not old enough to understand the concept of what happens. So now they're mad at me.
So when you said they're mad at you, did you not have a relationship with your sisters to where, okay, he hurt me and this is why he's gone? Where
I
they
did, but you also have him being able to reach out from the jail and talk to them. I'm choosing not to talk to you, or he's reaching out like while he's out on bond. And my mother has already told me these are things that you don't have to do.
She was allowing him to talk to the other girls though?
To the other girls, because I mean, I can't tell you why, but he still talked to them. She said, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. So you have him telling them he didn't do this. Your sister's making this up. He told the courts that I had a boyfriend and that I had actually had sex with someone it on him. And then he said that my uncle, his brother, he had given him a key and he lived on us and he did it. Like he never owned it. So you have
he blamed you having a boyfriend to
who
his
their father say I didn't do this.
Wow. Did he ever openly admit that he did it? Since after he blamed you, he blamed a boyfriend, he blamed his brother. Did he ever openly admit that he did it?
No. No. He did not.
He's never even apologized. So
to this very day. To this very day. I'm 40. To this very day. No.
So let's talk about him going to prison and then you kind of feeling isolated by your family, so to speak, because he's gone away.
Correct.
How old were you when you had your first child?
15.
15. So let's start talking about that. Do you think that being raped made you sexually active?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not gonna say open the door. What I will say is being raped by the first man that I've been ever presented to for protection and for love and for guidance set the tone that this is what I have to do for protection, love, and guidance from any man. Because this is my dad. This is my father. I am his. So if this is what he done, and then I looked at how you treat my mother. So if these are the things that we have to do to keep men happy, that is what you just told an 11-year-old. So we get to now I'm searching for a replacement for protection, love, and guidance. And all of these people are like my father.
Mm. So let's talk about that. So when did you enter into your first domestic violence situation?
So we'll say there's only been one, but at 15 there was one relationship. My kid's father. I met him at school. He was a teenage boy. He was cute. Okay, cool. Um, he started sneaking into my mama's house while she was at work at night. He was already sexually active. In my mind, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what has been set up. So I had this was my very first time having consensual sex, and I was pregnant. I got pregnant, but we keep going, and he's dropped out of school. He keeps going back and forth to juvenile. He's very violent. He's addicted to drugs,
And
and
how old was he?
he was 16 at the time that we got pregnant. I was 15, he was 16. So when my first son was born, he would pop in and pop out, pop in and pop out. So he would pop in for the pregnancy. He was nowhere. My grandmother, my mother, and my aunt took me to appointments, bought everything. Like he was nowhere. Now his mother would come, and she loved her grandkids. Period. God rest her soul. But it just became, I'm still a teenage boy. I'm out here doing what I'm doing. And he was selling drugs and doing all of this stuff. So there was no stability there. But when he came around, I would just kind of go with him and stay with him at his mom's house for a week. And he would stay gone for 2 or 3 days. And when I confronted him about it, he'd beat my ass. He would.
So let's talk about that. Was there any warning signs prior to him hitting you for the first time? Like, was there any red flag here?
No, not to a physical abuse. He was always abusive in the aspect of once we moved away from my mother and he got me into a place by myself, he was emotionally abusive. He would take the car and leave. Like at that time, I didn't have a cell phone. There were house phones. And so if you've taken the vehicle and we don't have a house phone, and you're gone for a week and I have a 1-year-old baby, what am I supposed to do in Timbuktu by myself? And you take my car that my uncle has given me, and you're just gone, and bills are not being paid. Every spot that we went to, we were evicted from because you're not paying the bills. I'm trying to work at Burger King. My Burger King check is going to daycare. Like, so there was never physical red flags. It was just the I'm gonna go. But then that's when the cocaine came into play.
Okay, and how old were you then?
17. 17. At this point, I've dropped out of school. So I've quit school and I've completely moved in with him. And my mom has took my baby from me.
At this time, have you already had your second child, or this is just your
No,
first child that she's
this is
taking?
my first child. This is still my first child.
And she's taking him because
there's nothing that you can do with this baby. You cannot take him there and take care of him. You're not taking care of yourself. They're not going to provide for you. You go out there and do what you're going to do. You can't take this baby with you. And at 15, 16, 17, okay. What do you want me to say? Okay. Because I don't want to stay here with you. I want to be with him.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when we started using ecstasy. That didn't lead to abuse, physical,
But you
because
were already doing
ecstasy
drugs
killed it.
prior to him actually physically abusing you the first time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We were already using we were drinking. Of course, I was drinking way before 21. We were playing drinking games at 17. We started doing ecstasy. That's where a lot of the money went. But then he ventured off and he started using crystal meth. I started using cocaine. That is when things got to be violent. So he would do things like take my money for bills, and I have to drive around looking for you. And the very first time I found him, he'd actually taken the money for Dakota's first birthday party, all of it, and went to a dope house and smoked all of it up. So I pulled up at the dope house and I was like, "You're gonna have to do something because his birthday party's like tomorrow." And he said, "Don't you ever come confront me about no fucking money," and punched me in my face. And I still have like a scar, split my eye open.
That was the first time he hit you.
That was the first time he hit me. Yep.
And so how long did that continue on?
For about 3 years.
On a regular basis?
Mm-hmm. On a regular basis when he was around. So, and a lot of this stuff I'm not telling my mama because I'm not ready to leave him. I am still very much a child. And I have no idea what is going on. But I feel like I have to have him. Like these are the things I'm supposed to allow him to do. So what is happening is my life at that point is mimicking what I saw growing up.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it works. I'm not in any different situation than my mama was with my daddy.
Right.
This is how it works. You be quiet, and he'll eventually come back, and he eventually did. And that was the cycle.
And what was the straw that broke the camel's back for you? What made you leave him?
There were two things. He had another baby in the between our two kids. I got pregnant again, and I lost my son due to the irresponsibility of you. Had I never been where I was trying to see you, my son probably would still be here. And then you didn't show up at the funeral.
So
You
go back
didn't
and tell us
show up.
about that. When you say it's his fault about your son, what happened?
Okay, so at this point, I've gotten to a point in my life where I can't mess with you anymore. I moved back home with my mama with both of my children now. I have two sons at this point. Moved back home with my mama. I've got my CNA certification. I'm about to start a new job. I've got an apartment and I'm actively moving into this apartment. I am changing my life around for these kids. So we're moving to the apartment, and on this particular day, I can remember every aspect of this day. I got up. I have two kids at this point. Mama, will you keep Dakota? I will take the baby with me. I want to take some stuff over to the apartment. She's like, cool.
Hold 1 second. Hold that thought. How old is Dakota and how old is Elijah?
They're 3 years apart. So Elijah is 2 and Dakota is 5.
Okay.
So I'm like, cool, it's raining a little bit this day. I just bought a new car, a Cavalier. I got my taxes that year, and I bought a Cavalier. So I load him up in the car, load the stuff up that I'm gonna take, and where I live, Colony, Alabama, where my apartment is Hanceville, Alabama. It's like 15 minutes down Highway 91. Just gonna take some stuff down there, drop it off, come back. On my way, my child's father, my baby daddy, he calls. And he's like, okay, you're on your way to Hansville. I just want to talk to you. And I just want to see Elijah. Will you stop by where I am? Cool. Stop by, talk to him. I asked him to ride with me to the apartment so I could go ahead and drop the stuff off. Went over there, he got the stuff out of the car. I took him back. We get out and we go in. He's playing with Elijah and we're talking. Honestly, that is all that's happened. Then a car pulls up outside. So I'm like, what is going on out here? And there's a young woman throwing clothes out of a car. It has lighter fluid and setting the clothes on fire, and she's just going in. And I'm like, what you got going on over here? I have to go. Because if my mom finds out I stopped over here, it I have to go. I can't have my son and all of this that you got going on. So I take Elijah and I leave. Put him in the car, get in the car. I got to go from this. I go out one way, she goes out another one. I get down the highway, I look down at my phone, look back up, and the car is spinning. And it's just spinning and it goes off a 40-foot bluff. And we stop at a tree. Elijah and I are now both on the passenger side of the car. His car seat is tumbled over and he's laying like he's taking a nap, like he looks like he's sleeping. And I am up against the door on the passenger side, but I can look back and see him. So I'm talking to him and I'm saying, Elijah, just breathe. I'm going to get somebody to help us. I can hear him breathing. But I've also been a CNA for a year at this point. I hear him gurgling and I know what that is. So I'm like panic mode. Somebody has to see us because this bluff goes straight down. The highway is way up here. Somebody got to see us. So then I start blowing the horn and I just remember someone coming to the car. And at this point, I'm rubbing on Elijah. I've gotten myself from the passenger side to the driver's side to turn around. And I'm just rubbing him and I'm like, just wait, just wait. Somebody's coming. The next thing I remember, I was on a stretcher in a hospital and my child wasn't there.
Did he
They
pass
told me,
the
they had to
car?
tell me that.
Did he pass in the car at the hospital?
So the story that I've been told, because at that point I lose consciousness, and what I've been told was they got him out of the car, he was breathing. They got him in the helicopter to take him to Children's. So the irony is my aunt works as an RN on the helicopter at Children's. She got the call. They were coming to get him, and then they were called in the middle and said, "Don't worry about it. Turn around." So I think he passed waiting on, not waiting, but in the time it was taking, he passed. But I think he was going to pass anyway. He broke his neck. I heard the rattle. I seen him. I knew that that was the last time I was going to see him. So
you remember them telling you that he passed?
That my cousin, uh, my cousin Lance, came to the hospital, and I remember like when I finally wake up and I'm like, "Where's Elijah?" Those are the only things I'm asking. And he was the one that was just like, "Jaketta, he's not. He didn't make it." So at this point, I'm strapped to a bed, and there's really nothing that I can do but lay here and feel that my son is gone.
Why
My
did they
baby
get
daddy never showed up. Because I broke my back.
Oh, really?
I broke my back. So I was strapped down, and I'm pretty sure because of the movement and the information that you're going to tell me at some point. But I did have extensive injuries in my spine, so I was strapped down. I went to the funeral in a wheelchair. It took a minute for me to be able to walk regular and do certain things again. But my baby daddy didn't show up. He showed up at the. I do remember seeing him at the wreck when the ambulance got there and was about to get me out the car. The car pulled up. He got out of the passenger side. A cop said something to him. He fell to the ground and he left. And I never seen him again.
Ever to this day?
to today. I'm not seeing him.
Wow. Have you spoken to him?
I think he wrote a letter. My mom intercepted that letter and threw it away. He went to jail. He's been to jail, prison several times since then. But this particular thing, he went to jail for, I think, involuntary manslaughter. He was in the car with someone, and they were both high. They wrecked, and the other person died. So I think he went to prison for involuntary manslaughter, and he wrote a letter. And I don't. We were at something, maybe my sister's baby shower or something, and one of my sisters said something about him writing a letter. And my mom was like, "Yeah, I have it," but she never gave it to me. So, mm-mm,
What about relationship with your son?
mm-mm.
Your son doesn't talk to his father.
My son's father is my ex-husband.
Okay. So how did you build trust in a way to be able to get married to someone? Like, what was life for you like after you lost your son up until you met your husband?
Whew. Um, mm. After I lost Elijah, that's it. I think it just continued to set the course of.
Were you still on drugs at the time?
I was not at that point. It was a sober from then on out. Like, no, I've never picked up. I went to things as deep as crystal meth. Like, yeah, but no. After that, it was like so much of me was gone in that moment. And as a teenager, still, you don't know how to process that you can't process that type of loss.
Right.
And then there was no counseling, and there was nothing after that. As far as support, I mean, I have my family, but
Right.
we're all hurting. We're all grieving. So I say this lightly because I'm not in a hateful space with my ex-husband. So I don't think I was open to trusting someone. I'm still looking for the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
the protection, security, and love. Now I'm also trying to fill a space from losing a child that I don't know at that moment a relationship's not going to be. That's not the thing that holds that.
Mm-hmm.
So us meeting, it was just like that was what I needed in that moment. That was what I needed. That's what I was looking for in that moment because I was so hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't pain in that moment. He was something other than pain.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you when you met him?
Like 20? Yeah, like 20.
You smile when you talk about this ex-husband now. Okay.
Because I have to think about like us at that age.
Yeah.
Like I will say this, us being married at 21 and 22, like it was lit for because we don't know what the hell we doing. We just because we have a friendship. Take all of the layers off. That nigga cool. Like you can hang with him. He's
And where did
cool.
you guys meet?
Honey, we met in the street. Now let's keep it all the way 100. I met him when I was buying cocaine. That's what I was fighting for.
So you knew him prior to your son passing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I was actually mixing and mingling. So he had met my son. Like we were actively talking and he was coming to my home. He'd met my kids.
Okay.
So I went to work one night and I talked to him and he was supposed to come back to my house that night when I got off work. On his way to my home, he was pulled over and he was in prison. He was pulled over for something, and then court came and he was sent to prison for a year.
Okay.
The day that when he was sent to prison, that's when Elijah passed.
Hmm.
So his mother and his sister came to my baby. I won't ever forget that because they didn't know me.
Right.
Like I was buying dope from your son. Like you don't know me. You don't at that point you don't know that we're gonna be together. You don't your son's friend has had a loss. I'm gonna show up. And those two women
And what people don't understand, showing up matters.
showing up matters.
And
So I
sometimes,
will never
and
forget
look,
that
and
day.
sometimes you may remember who showed up, sometimes you may not, but in the moment, it matters.
It matters. And they came on his behalf because nobody could have sent y'all here but him. Y'all don't have any connections with me. So that spoke to me. And in that moment, I was ride or die for him. I was ride or die. Like, let's get it. Now, we were still very young.
Right.
And I chop it up now as a 40-year-old woman to say at 20 and 21.
You guys are a year apart?
We are the same age.
Okay.
He turned 40 October the 2nd. I turned 40 October the 28th.
Okay.
We don't know what we're doing.
Right.
We don't know what we're doing. Our parents haven't had successful marriages.
Right.
We don't know that many people around us with successful marriages. We went into a marriage trying everything that we saw everybody else do.
And how long were you all married?
We were married for 9 years. We were married for 9 years. There's some complete highs and complete lows.
Why would you say your relationship with him didn't make it?
Neither one of us were happy. And we can be honest. Neither one of us were happy. Very, very early on, we found out there were fertility issues involved in our situation. I respect, I won't go into detail, but there were fertility issues. So I honestly can say with my whole heart, when we found that out that day, it changed both of us in different ways. And neither one of us had communication tools to support each other in what we were about to go through.
Okay. And so what time in the marriage was this? Like how many years had y'all been together?
1 year. One, like this was early on that because we'd already been together. We moved in together, I think in 2006. So we've already been together for a year, living together, and nothing's happening. I mean, okay, I've been on birth control. We know how these things can mess with the body, yada, yada, yada. So then we get a little change. There was a lawsuit from the death of my son, and I can't tell the details of that, but there was a lawsuit and there was money involved. So we got a little change, bought a house, and then we had the funds to go and seek medical attention. And the day we sat in the office and got the results of, I don't know that this is going to be possible the way that y'all are trying to do it. It shattered both of us for different reasons.
I understand.
Now I got to grieve a kid that I ain't even had while grieving a child that I did have for 2 years. And someone else has to grieve. I may not ever be able to experience this at all. Two very different perspectives of the same thing. And we have no idea how to console each other because there is so much pain involved in the union. We got met. We were both looking for something and had not pinpointed what it was yet. So now we've created a marriage where we don't know what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
So he wilding. He cheating every time he can get his damn. He wilding. And I'm like, right. So now I'm shut off. So now.
So the first year he's not cheating. To your knowledge. I say to your knowledge. We have to always put that to your knowledge. Right. To your knowledge, the first year he was cool. Right. But after he finds this information out.
It's like a flip switch. And then it became Because for me, it became depression, isolation. But there was also other shit that there's no therapy for the grief, and now I've become a wife on top of that. And I'm managing a household, and I'm 22 with this money, and I'm
Because at
thinking
this
about this
time,
life.
because you mention that your son was with your mom. Has your son ever come to live with you guys?
Yes, yes. And when we got married, at that point, their support, I got my son. And
Okay.
he's been with me until he graduated and moved out on his own. Because at this point, I know better. You are my priority. So he lives with me at that point. I mean, he still goes over his grandma's house on the weekend when his mama trying to turn up and during the summer. But he's with me when it's time to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
My mom has always still been a staple support. She bought school clothes, all of those things. She was very still a much a co-parent, but I did bring him home to live with me. I think that changed something as well, because although my son will tell you when he says the word dad, this is who I'm talking about. But they also have a different relationship because we come into the situation with this kid, and then you find out that I may not be able to, in the scheme of things, me and my wife can't have kids together. But then you have these kids, your nieces and nephews, that you've been a co-parent to this whole time. And now we have a dynamic where you're comfortable over here with them, and I'm trying to make you comfortable with him. And it's just not mixing. My son is gravitating towards me.
Mm-hmm.
That became a divide. I'm shutting down. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not giving to my husband, period. And some women will say with good reason, he's cheating. Well, is he cheating, or is he cheating because I'm not being like I'm not taking accountability for him? But I'm also saying, in like he had a wife at the house cooking, cleaning, and flipping over
And
every
I'm
time
gonna
he
say
got
this,
back.
and you have to, when telling your story, even though a person cheating is a personal thing, because whether if you commit it, it don't really matter how
Right.
bad you got it at home. My commitment is to my word. My word is my bonds. However,
Correct.
however,
However,
we are human beings, and you can hand somebody over on a platter, baby. And I mean, it's just
correct.
I'm speaking from experience. I
Exactly.
I get it.
Exactly. And this is my first marriage. And again, we don't have a good comparison. So, in our eyes, if you look at marriage, what we've known it to be, we were just like everybody else. We were doing the things that everybody else was doing. The difference is the community that we lived in. There were people who loved me, and there were people who loved Pookie. So, the people who loved him were gonna be with the shit with him. But the people who like looking out for me, like, yo, I don't know what you got going on, but this is disrespectful and it's getting out of hand. So
Mm.
now we at the house arguing, and is you believe in these motherfuckers in the street, and I'm like, everybody ain't lying on you. So we're at each other, and there is nothing happening but a toxic cycle. This goes on for years.
And so
Years.
I present this to you. What was the end result? Why did your marriage come to an end?
You get tired of being tired and saying that you're tired. Because at this point, what else can I do? What else can I do? Because I can fix all of these things that I say you're not getting at home. But we still get the same outcome. So at this point, I feel like you just don't like me. Like you just don't like me. We've either grown apart, or you're not happy with me, or we got married way too soon. Like you just got out of prison for a year, and you were still young
Mm-hmm.
at that point. you probably should have been free to just taste the air. But I'm tired of this genuine cycle of arguing. And he and I fought. He never beat my ass. And my baby daddy just come in and I'm just slap the shit out you. You could tell that he would do everything in his power. Like, we can argue all day. Don't put your hands on me, because I'm trying to just, and I would just put my hands on. Like, at that point, I'm at resentment and anger, and this is what has worked when my daddy did it, when my baby daddy did it. So now you've made me mad enough to put my hands on you. Then we get to a place where somebody called DHR on me, because now you have domestic violence in the home of a minor child. Mm-hmm. We're gonna come snatch your son. No, you're not. Nah, you're not gonna be able to do that. So I left. We get divorced. And even in getting divorced, we didn't know how to do that. Because, like, we're actively talking to each other on the way to the courthouse. Mm-hmm. And he's like, tell him I'm on my way. I said, I'm already here. We're supposed to be at court at 9. I'm on my way. I go in the courthouse. She looks, he's not there. Granted. So I leave out and I call and say, ain't no needing you coming up here now. And he bust out crying and he's like, I really didn't think you were going to do it. So now I'm in the parking lot. The day I'm supposed to start a new job is the day my divorce is final. I'm in the parking lot of this job I'm supposed to go to, boo-hooing. Because, well, what was that? What do you mean you didn't really think I was going to do it? How much did you want me to take before I did it? I can't keep taking you cheating. I cannot, and it's becoming a disrespectful cheat now. You
can't take him cheating. Were you faithful in your marriage?
Yes, I was faithful in my marriage. There was an instance after we separated where I was with someone and he found out about it and it tore him up. To him, in his mind and his perspective, I was wrong because of the person that I chose. In my mind, I ain't do none of this while you were my husband. You did all of this while I was your wife at home. We ain't on the same book on this situation, but I can respect your feelings. I can respect your feelings. That doesn't mean that you right and I'm wrong. It means we have a different perspective on how you feel like a woman should move after you fucked her over.
So you say you haven't spoken to your baby's father. Have you spoken to your ex-husband? Are you all amicable?
Girl, listen, we got back together. We got back in a whole relationship.
With one another?
With each other.
Look, that's why you smiling.
With each other.
That explains why you smiling. Man, I feel like who smiled by their ex-husband?
Listen, even if today we ceased a relationship, an intimate relationship with each other, I could, and it don't matter how, this is my truth. So how people take it, this is my truth. I could not be in a relationship with him as of today for forever and still show up to Thanksgiving, still text him and be like, you a fool and you did that woman dirty, that she always did. Like, I could still have that type of relationship with him because I genuinely feel like God sent him to me when I needed someone. That man has shown up and I won't take that from him. He has shown up for me in some ways that other people ain't even thought about. Like, even now being divorced, he helped pay my tuition for esthetician school. Like, he has been a rock when I've needed a rock. Our issue is codependency. I don't know that our relationship is healthy for each other. I don't know that we have the communication skills with each other. I don't know that there will ever be enough healing from the traumas that happened in our marriage for us to have a healthy marriage. And
So let
marriage
me
is
ask
still,
you this then. Have you had therapy?
yes, me. I've been in therapy for 4 years.
Has he had therapy?
No.
So what is your desire for life? Like going through all these things. Well, let me ask you this. Going through all these things, the rape by your father. And let me ask you about your father, because you did say at the beginning of the interview, to this day, he has not admitted. Do you have a relationship with your father?
I recently stopped having a relationship with my father due to things in therapy that I found out. I did go back and have a relationship with my father for a good low minute. He ended up having some health issues. I had to have a leg amputated, and I was there. I was there while he was in the hospital. I was there. I started going back up for holidays. Um, he gave me a car. I say gave. I had to take over the payments, but it was his car that he was no longer using after he got his leg amputated. And he said, if you want it, you can have it. We started to build a bond. What happened was I kept hitting this plateau emotionally, and I'm like, what is going on? So I'd go to therapy and talk to my therapist, and she's like, that is because your body doesn't forget. Your mind can push it to the side. Your heart can forgive. Your body will never forget that. And every time you're in his presence, your guard is going to be up because you've seen a part of him you can't unsee. You know how bad he can be. Your body does not know at what moment he's going to be that monster again. You do not have to have, she said, I don't think that you grasp the severity of the act. You were raped and it was violent. You don't have to be with your aggressor just
That's
because
right.
it's your father.
That's right.
That is sending you into a spiral because it tells that inner child, again, that was on you. This on you, and you need to be quiet, and this is your dad. That's not what that means. This was your dad, and he hurt that little girl, and you have to protect her now. And then there were some other issues that came up with my niece that at this point, as an aunt, remembering being in that space, I will never look anybody in their face and say, I don't believe you. Mm-hmm. I stand with you until it is proven, or you can look me in the face and say they lied. Mm-hmm. I stand with you. I stand
with that information, because that was going to be my next question, because you did say you had siblings. Were you the only one he violated?
To my knowledge.
You are the only one he's violated?
To my knowledge. To my knowledge. I would say that. I will say this. I'm the only person he's been convicted and served a time for.
Okay. And do you think that you are at a plateau because he's still standing on the fact that he didn't do it, and you haven't gotten it? Would an apology or an act of repentance make a difference?
How do you repent? Something that I have.
Well, repentance, of course, you know what it means, but I'm just going to for the followers, in case you don't. Repentance means I did something. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry for what I did, and I'll never do it again.
I think when we get to instances such as rape, domestic violence, abuse, you can tell me those things and I can accept that. Moving forward, I still don't know that that's a healthy mind frame for the victim, and I don't even like the word victim, or the survivor, because I still don't know that.
Right.
I don't know that.
But do you feel like it should be said?
Yes, but I feel like now it's too late. I feel like you should have said that a long time ago.
Okay. But
I
think,
feel a
you
slap in
think
the
that
face.
an apology should have been given?
Yes, absolutely. So long ago. And then it be my decision on how I
Right.
move after that. But yes, I think acknowledgement would at least show me that I stand 10 till I did that.
Has it ever been discussed between you and he?
Yeah, I don't think he discusses it with anybody. No, I don't. I
When,
think that
like the time after you saw him, if you can remember, when he was released from prison, it was just like y'all was supposed to go back to normal.
he went back to normal with my sisters. He didn't even want to show up at my wedding. I asked him to come to my wedding, and he said, if I'm off work. Like, he kept me at a distance. He took them out for Valentine's and bought them flowers and took them on vacations. And his excuse for me was I was married. They weren't. So he built relationships with them. You didn't build anything with me until everybody else left.
Mm-hmm. Because did they help in his care?
No. They have not seen him, period.
Why do you think that is?
Because of the other things that happened, like after, like the recent things that have happened with the family, with the niece, that I'm speaking of. That's where y'all saw it.
And that had something to do with him.
Mm.
Okay. Wow.
Yes. So
let me ask you this, because this is going to be my next question. So with the rape, with the domestic violence, with the drug, with losing the baby, with the failed marriage, what is your relationship like with you? Like what have you done with all this?
honey, I love me some me, baby. You can, I love me some me because first off, shout out to my therapist, the goat of the goat. Like,
Shout her out. Remember, I asked you about any agencies. Shout your
okay,
therapist out.
okay. So I will shout out my therapist. It is EMDR therapy. So it's an eye movement therapy to reprogram your brain. Her name is Ashley Newhouser. She's in Tuscaloosa, but she does Zoom. She's amazing. As far as payment,
Therapy. Like, good to me, that sound like what do you call it?
hypnosis,
Yes, I was just she's trying to baptize me by the ass. No, but it's
hypnosis. So it is. It's like
okay.
a little blue ball they put on the screen, and it goes back and forth. So what you do is we've talked about my traumas. We've talked about everything. What are your beliefs about you with
Right.
these traumas? So the first one, my very first one that we just completed, I no longer have this trauma, was I am the problem. I am the problem. Because everyone around me, there's something, there's pain. And I'm the only common denominator. So it's got to be me. From rape all the way to marriage, I'm the problem. And we're trying to change that to I hold value regardless.
Period. Yes, you do.
So we done the blue ball, and we talk about, okay, last we left you were 15, and this is what's happened. What emotions come up when you think about that? And you just concentrate on this blue ball and think about that. And then she'll stop, take a breath. What emotions come up? And you work through that, and I hold value regardless. I'm going to logically tell you how you're wrong in thinking that was your fault. This is why those things weren't your fault. I have officially reprogrammed that particular trauma to I hold value regardless. And when I say I stand 10 toes on that, it doesn't matter what is going on. The way that you treat me is a reflection of you. Because I give you the best of me in every situation, in every person that I meet, in every situation that I'm in. I come in best foot forward. So what you give me in return, I hold value regardless. If you decide to give me your ass to kiss, I still hold value.
That's right.
So I'm at a place where I be looking at myself in the mirror like, girl, you're so pretty.
And,
Girl, you did great today. Yeah, like the love that I have for me has changed drastically. And it's also been lonely because in that growth, in that knowing how to pinpoint what you do want, so you stop manifesting a lot of what you don't want. You realize that a lot of these people aren't things that you want.
mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. What type of message would you like to send people who's currently experiencing either domestic violence or drug abuse? The message may be separate or it may be hand in hand. But what message would you like to send to anyone who is experiencing the things that you've gone through?
That you hold value regardless. You hold value. Somebody loves you. I love you. If I'm the only person that you're going to hear from, I love you. And I love you enough for you to look in the mirror and tell yourself you hold value regardless. This is not your story and it doesn't have to be. This is a circumstance. This is a situation. And all those solutions aren't always readily presented. There is always a way out. There's help, and you hold value regardless of what you have done, regardless of what has been done to you.
Right.
That is the biggest lesson that has got me to a place of peace. Because a lot of this turmoil, you need some peace.
That's
And
right.
your peace is you hold value regardless. It doesn't matter what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, you hold value regardless. And you can shine, baby. All you have to do is make the decision. Just wake up and say,
A
make the
powerful
decision.
plan. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Make the decision.
And so tell people how they can find you. Like, we'll tell them how they can purchase from you, find you, tag
Okay. So you
business.
can find me cutting up on the TikTok. You can find me cutting up on TikTok at aesthetically holistic. You can find me being professional on Facebook, Aesthetic Elements, Instagram, Aesthetic Elements, or my website, aestheticelements.skin. You can book a facial, wax appointment, order product, book a consultation if you just want to talk to me.
Tell
Order
them the
your a
name of
book.
the book that you already have out on.
With that book is on Amazon. Journey to Goddess, Pain to Power. That book is on Amazon. Just search Journey to Goddess, or I will link it on my website. And then we have another book coming out first quarter of next year. Title, I don't know. So maybe we'll do a thing where you give me title suggestions on
Baby,
my Facebook page.
what's the punchline you just gave us? What did you just tell the people?
I hold value regardless.
Period.
Okay. Come
Period.
on.
Hey, because that sent chills through my spine when you said it the first time because that's heavy.
Yes.
And
You know what?
and that's true for each and every individual on the planet.
Period.
That
You hold
applies to
value.
everybody. Yes,
Everybody.
that's powerful.
Everybody is valuable. Everybody. I
It's
don't care
not on
what
your.
you've done.
It's right.
You're valuable.
That is right.
That's it.
Period. Girl,
So that will be,
listen.
I hold value regardless will
Oh,
be coming out in
girl,
Q1 of
we're gonna be so
2024.
ghetto when I hang this. Oh, come on. Yes. Hello. You have arrived, ma'am.
Yes, honey.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, Jaketta, and we're gonna let you go because when I tell you, we have been talking, and it has been my absolute pleasure. You,
Yes.
since I have met you, you have been nothing but just a positive ball of human being. Always smiling, always friendly. I mean, never nasty, never attitude-ish, never stank. You know what they think we are. You have
Right.
been that. So to have gone through all of this and to still be able to, and I'm just gonna tell you from my my belief what it is to still see God's love through you because you are such a loving person. You're such a sweet person. You just such a cool chick. That is such a just an awesome way to be. You should sleep well at night. Now, I don't know how other people has had their experiences with you. I believe that's truly who you are though. And that really speaks volumes about the character of who you are. You just a really good person. I am so happy that you were able to get out of certain instances that you were going through alive, whether you were alive and sick at the time and alive and well now, you made it out alive because some people don't.
Right.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's nothing like being crushed in spirit. To be crushed in spirit by so much trauma so early. You know, I really commend you just for even later in life getting the help that you needed.
Right.
And still being a positive person. So I really want to commend you for that. Thank you for being a guest on my show. You're my first episode. Hello. It's been my pleasure to speak with you. And thank you.
You've done a great job.
Well, thank you, girl. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week with a different episode. But thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you check Jaketta out. Make sure you purchase her book. Make sure you go to her website. And we will talk to you all later. And remember what it is. You got
value regardless.
Remember, y'all, you hold value regardless. And my girl said that. Okay. So y'all be blessed and have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Black Label Podcast. Please make sure to tune in next week for our new episode. You can find us also on Facebook at the Black Label Podcast with Stacey Yvonne. We will also be on Instagram as the Black Label Podcast. If you would like to have a segment on our show, please contact me, Stacey Kimber. You can either reach me at number 205-332-2868 or email info@kwusdiagnostics.com.